Welcome to the Women of Ihsan podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and this is an invitation to join me and our amazing guests to find inspiration and insights into your own journey to Ihsan. If you ever feel overwhelmed or confused along the way, I'm also here to support you so you can tackle your challenges with confidence and make progress towards this lofty goal. To find out more about my work, check the episode description and make sure to subscribe.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalat wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome to a new episode of the Women of Ihsan podcast. Today I have a very remarkable guest with me, who is Aisha Jasuleviciute. I hope I said it right. Aisha is a British qualified teacher and special educational needs coordinator with an extensive experience in education. She also holds 5 degrees, mashallah, tabarakallah. Aisha specializes in science and special educational needs, and she holds a master's in psychology, neuroscience of mental health from King's College in London. Aisha's research focuses on the factors affecting Muslim women experiencing domestic violence, particularly spiritual abuse. Aisha's journey to Islam began in 2006 when she embraced the faith from Christianity as a Lithuanian British convert. This experience led her to found Aisha Sukoon, a safe haven for convert women overcoming toxic relationships. She's passionate about interfaith understanding and supports women in reclaiming their power and building a future filled with peace and happiness. I'm so very excited to have Aisha with me today and get to know more about her. I've been following Aisha for a few months now on social media. We have a few connections in common, and I'm so happy to have her today with me. Aisha, again, thank you for making the time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for having me here. It's such a pleasure to join you on your podcast. I've been following you too, and your work is remarkable. So it's really a pleasure to be here.
So, alhamdulillah, I'm so excited to have you today, Aisha, to get to know you better. It's the first time I have someone coming from Lithuania with me, a small country in Northern Europe. And I'm so excited to get to, to shed some light on your own background, what you can share about yourself and a personal story, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. So my name is Aisha Jasuleviciute, as you have mentioned, and you've done a good job by pronouncing my surname, which is quite challenging and not an easy one. So well done for that. So
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm a relationship recovery coach who is a convert myself, with the main focus on working with converts facing difficulties or overcoming toxic relationships. That all stems from my own personal experience as a convert of 18 years. Alhamdulillah, there were lots of ups and downs, there were lots of struggles that I had to face, but also lots of achievements and victories. Finding Aisha Sukoon as a safe haven for those women plays a huge role through the experience I had to overcome myself. I know what are the challenges. I know different forms of abuse that are so commonly spoken about in general society. However, I realized that certain forms of abuse, like spiritual abuse, is very distinctive for converts and Muslims in general. So I dedicated my time. Part of my master's research that I have recently completed is also focusing on the factors that affect Muslim women experiencing domestic violence, abusive relationships, and spiritual abuse. Sadly, there's not enough research currently conducted in that area that is focusing on Islamic faith. So I had to use quite a lot of research from other religions like Christianity that highlights the issues of spiritual abuse. And I know there's certain Muslim women who are conducting research currently that is not published yet and looking into that area as well. So my main focus is to equip other sisters who are going through abusive relationships, who are lost on their journey, who are voiceless, to empower them, help them to navigate the journey and finding themselves without compromising on their path, on the belief in Allah, because we know that converts intend to leave everything for Allah, to embrace Islam, but they also can leave Islam for anything else too. So I think my main aim is to ensure that they can restore themselves, their relationships with their families or themselves, relationship with Allah, without leaving Islam, without compromising on their faith, inshallah.
Inshallah, may Allah grant you tawfiq and success in this mission. And you know that there are more and more people talking about this, because it is a problem, and it has been a problem for a long time now. It's not new, actually. And if research is starting, I think that definitely data is going to be collected, and so that yeah, we can shed more light on this very, very real problem that especially the revert sisters, but also I think women in general, Muslim women in general, are faced with, subhanallah. I just want to hear more from you, you know, to get to know who is Aisha.
So, so Aisha is, like I mentioned, I'm a convert, and I think I describe myself first as a convert Muslim woman because the journey that I had to take and navigate is what shaped me into who I am today. So I take pride in being a Muslim, a Lithuanian Muslim, because this is my identity. So although I've been living in the UK for over a decade, I still consider myself Lithuanian, mainly because this is where I'm rooted from. So my identity, as I have discovered and explored over the years, because converts go through identity crisis, which I had as well, I think is part of the process. I think as Muslim women in general, we do, when we have children, when we get married, we kind of lose ourselves. So we hit the stage in our lives that think, who am I, you know, on my own, without children, without husband, without my parents. So actual Aisha is someone who is dedicated to sports, self-development, and whatever this Aisha has ever been doing, always had belief in God at the heart of everything. The belief in God was there even before I became a Muslim. So I always felt that there is God who is protecting and providing for me. And I always felt the huge sense of protection. Like I knew that God will send angels to support me and get me through anything and everything. So I never even compromised on my faith in that sense. I never thought or paid importance to people around me in Lithuania saying that they believe in universal powers, that the higher powers and so on. I always knew it's God. So for that reason, it was easier for me to embrace Islam and always do everything in the name of God and put God at the heart of everything. So intention of doing good, intention of helping others has always been there. I just had to put the name and finger to that. So I think for me, the journey that I had over those 18 years as a convert really shaped me how I am as a Muslim woman now, how I'm showing up for myself and for other Muslim women. So one thing I had to work on quite a lot, overcoming abusive relationships and witnessing quite a lot of violence growing up, and some of it in my adult life, was to find my voice. So for me, I think the biggest challenge was to voice my concerns and fears within my household. And I think now it started to show up in public speaking and about the topics and areas that I have expertise, but there is less awareness. So spreading that awareness, being one of the first ones to speak up in your family, in your community, whether, you know, I would consider myself to be as part of converse community or just Muslim community locally where I live, or just in general mixed community, speaking about domestic violence and abuse is not an easy topic. So finding that voice in myself and empowering other Muslim women, despite, you know, what path they took to get to where they are, is, I think, the biggest achievement that I consider to have to this date.
SubhanAllah, that's amazing. It's such a beautiful mission that you have. But the one thing that makes me curious about is how you described you always knew in your hearts of heart that there is one God and he's here to protect you, he's here to provide for you. What was it more of a progressive reflection? How did you first hear about Islam, and what was the decisive moment, or maybe was it a whole thought process that took months or years, that there was something missing clearly in your faith, which when you embraced Islam or when you considered becoming a Muslim, you completed the faith. Subhanallah.
Yeah, I think for me, what it was, I was very close to my grandma, and my grandma was an illiterate, so she couldn't read and write, but she had that blind belief in God, because I used to spend a lot of time with her. She used to take me to church on Sundays. And sometimes I used to go to the church because I used to get sweets after. I'll be honest with you. It was not just all intentional about belief in God and all the practices that Christians had, but I was loyal to my grandma. I loved her dearly. So spending time with her clearly did lots of good to me. And I think losing my grandma, I always reflected what was so special about her. And the most inspiring thing I could think of her was belief in God. And this is how I knew that I always believed in God. God has always been my protective factor. So anything that has ever happened to me, and I went through horrific things in my childhood, I always felt that there is no life without God, and we cannot take our life away. So that protection of God and sincere belief has always directed my attention to something else, which was usually serving others. So when I came to the UK, it was in 2005. This was my first exposure to Muslims. So prior to that, I didn't know much. I knew they pray and I knew they worship Allah. And because of how special Allah is to Muslims and the meaning in Arabic, because it's the oneness, it's one God, it's not translated in other languages. So in Lithuanian, it was translated as just like with the Lithuanian ending. So it was Allahas. And I never knew what that was. To me, it was they believe in something completely different, something that's not God, or like if it was Buddha or something. So I was not familiar. So when I started discussing with Muslims and I said, look, I don't know about your faith. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know. What is that Allah you believe in? And then they said, okay, so how do you say God in your language? And I was like, Dievas. I said, okay, so in English is God, but in Arabic is Allah. And then it just connected. This is where the penny dropped, that actually we all believe in one God. And this is when I opened my heart and my mind and I started reading about Islam, and I embraced Islam very proudly before marriage. So Alhamdulillah, even though my marriage has failed after 15 years, I'm still a Muslim, because I knew that this is my path. This was very logical, which I didn't find in Christianity, because Trinity, Jesus being Son of God, it was just not making sense to me. So I found all my answers, Alhamdulillah, in Islam. So it was easy for me to take that path, embrace it, and just continue this ongoing journey.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. So when back in Lithuania, you never came into contact with Muslims, or how is as more of a general culture, how is Islam spread in Lithuania? That's also something which I find also interesting.
Yeah, so in terms of Lithuania, we didn't at that time when I was living there, we didn't have many Muslims. If there were any Muslims, they were quite far. They either seclude themselves because it is very small amount. It was like a little town called 40 Tatars. So that's how many Muslims were there. Even the town is called by their name. So they were the first Muslims that were brought to Lithuania. So there are not many there.
SubhanAllah.
They're minority, but Alhamdulillah, there is a mosque there. There are a few mosques now, Islamic centers, but also majority of Lithuanians now are converts to Islam. So either women who traveled or embraced Islam through marriage. Same with men. There are quite many converts to Islam too, who studied abroad. There is one very famous one who studied in Cambridge, and he has translated lots of resources into Lithuanian and helped to translate Quran in Lithuanian too. So Islam is spreading, alhamdulillah. So it is minority, but it's a lot easier now for Muslims. We have halal meat over there, so situation is so much better.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And yeah, it's again, it's really interesting to see how also with internet, how the religion is also spreading, alhamdulillah, everywhere. So alhamdulillah, there are a lot of good things about internet.
Yes,
Like,
there
there's
are
a lot of
lots.
bad, but a lot of good things. Subhanallah, I always say that. And at the end of the day, it's just a tool, and it's whatever you do with it.
Yes,
Subhanallah.
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So once you embraced the faith, and subhanallah, I can hear how faith previously helped you through all these challenges in your life, and alhamdulillah. And I really think that nothing happens for, like, it didn't happen by chance. It all happened for a reason, and it shaped you so that you become the one you are now, and so you can help all of these other women because you understand their suffering so well.
Yeah.
How did your faith help you overcome the challenges, and how also did it shape your perspective generally? Like, how did it shape your worldview that you have now?
So faith in general as a Muslim, I think is extremely important. Like I said, it is my protective factor, has always been, and it is till this day. As more I learn about Islam, as more I study. So I started Islamic counseling course, diploma after my 5 degrees. So I cannot stop studying, but I had to fill that.
MashaAllah.
I had to fill that gap. So I have a lot of education that happened throughout my workplace. So as a teacher, as a special educational needs coordinator, as a healthcare professional in NHS, I had to bridge that gap. So I had to bridge the gap between Western psychology and Islamic psychology. I had to make sure that I tailor the needs and I tailor the concepts to Muslim women or whoever I'm supporting. So faith is at the heart of everything. Belief in Allah and all the principles that Allah has set for us, even boundary setting. I don't believe with Western psychology and Western ways of setting boundaries because it contradicts with Islamic values, which is boundary setting is necessary. Allah was the first one to teach us boundary setting because Allah has said to us, you will find me with those people, but you will not find me with those. You will find me in these places, but you will not find me in these. So Allah has set those boundaries straight away. We knew what is expected of us. And if we navigate away from the path of Allah, this is where the struggle will come. And we know that the goodness is from Allah and anything bad that comes is from us. So understanding this changes everything. So if I was to set boundaries with myself, or I would teach my client to set boundaries, first of all, I would just teach them the right way. If you're setting boundaries for other people, you could be also protecting them from yourself. It's not necessary. It's all about you. It's not egocentric, narcissistic view, Western view of it's all about me, my ego. You know, we look at this as nafs as well. We need to understand that boundary setting has to be done in a proper way, which is Islamic way. We cannot cut ties fully. And sometimes I deal with clients that go through horrific experiences. They go through a lot of violence and abuse. And even then, I do tell them, you can always keep the ties of kinship through your dua. You can keep your ties of kinship even one way. You know, you do not have to necessarily take the abuse, take the hit from them to keep the ties of kinship, because Islam is also about action. We're not just passively going to take the hit and give another cheek for another slap. It's not about that. It's about action, but in the right direction and with the right intention. So everything changes. Once you put Allah at the heart of everything you do, the whole concepts change. Although there's a lot of overlap between Western and Islamic psychology, we know there's so much that we know Islamically to be correct. It's proven by science now. But we just need to make sure that we put Allah at the heart of everything, because if that is the missing part, we given into our nafs.
MashaAllah, I loved what you said about setting boundaries. It's not just about me, and protecting myself, but also sometimes we are protecting others from ourselves. And it's so true, subhanallah. And when you've spent enough years on this earth, it makes more sense. Subhanallah.
Yeah,
Subhanallah. Amazing. What an important work. And I wish, like, I really pray there will be more and more sisters, but also brothers to advise us, to help us heal, and make the faith what is going, like, one of the factors of our healing. It's like you said, it's part of the equation. We can never do without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the one who will give you the cure, and He's the one who will make everything happen for you, subhanallah. And when you decide to not take this into account, it's a recipe for disaster.
100%.
Subhanallah. Thank you so much for this. I feel like in our community, in our Muslim community, because of like some cultural like cultural beliefs, and maybe lack of knowledge, lack of sound knowledge and verified knowledge in terms of the practice, how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and relationships as well. There are a lot of misconceptions still, and misconceptions, stereotypes, but also all the limiting beliefs that hold us back. In your case, if there was one or two, something, which you could share with us and make sense in the context of our conversation here, was there some like real big misconception or limiting belief that you also had to overcome, and how did you manage to do that?
Yeah, so for me, one of the biggest limiting beliefs was to speak up. So speaking up is the huge thing. I think naturally in my feminine role, that's how it should be. If you're growing up in a healthy environment, you would trust people to look after you. You will naturally allow certain people in your life, like your male role models, people of authority in your life, to lead the life. If they're just leaders, if everything is healthy, amazing, but it doesn't always happen. So in my case, I was quite submissive. I was always trusting and believing that people have the best interest at their heart. It has not always been the case. So for me to speak up against injustice that I was witnessing or experiencing growing up was extremely difficult. So my stress response has always been freeze. So I would go numb. I wouldn't know what to do. Growing up in an environment like that, I end up developing in the same kind of fear into my adult relationships. So I was finding it really difficult to stand up for myself in workplaces, in my intimate partner relationships, standing up for my children. So finding that voice and that courage within myself, I think, was the biggest challenge and limiting belief that I had to overcome. Once I learned that it is okay to speak up, you speaking up against injustice is not making you a bad mother, a bad wife, or a bad Muslim. So it's not like you're disobeying your husband or your father or anyone who is there to provide for you because you challenge how they mistreat you or others around you. Also, I had to realize that witnessing abuse is also a form of abuse. So witnessing something that is not right, something that is causing you distress, is psychological abuse. So I was not connecting those dots until I started studying master's in psychology and neuroscience. So I started connecting all those dots and I realized, no, this is my time. If I will not speak up, how will my children be able to speak up? If I will not set those boundaries, how will my children set those boundaries? When I started doing that, things started changing. And sometimes it's not even about other people. Sometimes we enable toxic interactions. Sometimes we enable toxic relationship shortcomings or whatever toxicity can bring because we allow it, because we do not speak up. And the other person may not know what we truly want or what is right because we're not speaking up. So there are lots of issues around the area of actually voicing your needs. So when I learned that, the lives around me, the life of my children started changing drastically. So I made it as my mission to stand up for those who are voiceless. And those who are voiceless are not necessarily children, as many people think. Those who are voiceless, most of the times, are adults who were the children, you know, and couldn't speak up or no one listened to them. So those childhood traumas, they usually come back to you in your adult life. So for me, dedicating my time for those women who cannot speak up and doing that for them sometimes. So for some of my clients, I have to nearly give them a script. I have to tell them, this is what you have to say, this is what you have to do. They understand the reasoning, they agree with me, but they can't say it. So I have to train them from basics because they haven't seen that growing up, they haven't learned. So I have to model it for them, as I would do with the children in high school or primary school. I'll say, no, you need to say this, you need to set boundaries this way. So it looks like that, you know, you say, no, I don't like the way you said it. This doesn't make me feel comfortable. I would prefer you not using those words. So this is exactly how I had to teach my clients and my children to set boundaries, to speak up. So I cannot do that for everyone, but I can guide them on the way. So for me, this was, I think, the biggest transformation within my life and the lives of my clients, what I witnessed, because they go on not just speaking up for themselves and their children, they go on to be public speakers, doing lots of work in the community, going to protests and, you know, like Palestine protests and things like that. They find their voice, and that is empowering.
Yeah, subhanallah, it's so powerful. But what you said, such an important reminder that fighting injustice, it starts within our homes.
Yes.
And we cannot expect the biggest injustices like what we have been witnessing for more than 10 months now in Palestine, in Gaza. We cannot expect removing these blatant injustices when we allow within our homes, within our local communities, injustice to happen without speaking up. It starts with the people who are close to you. And again, something we keep repeating, and subhanallah, because it is from the Quran, we can keep repeating and repeating. It's never going to be too much because it is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He told us that He will not change the state of a nation, of a people, a group of people, small or big, before you change what is within yourself. So it also means that you need to speak up for even the smallest thing that you see, like, or what you consider being small. You will not allow injustice in any of its form. And it also means working on yourself and getting better. And this is going to have a ripple effect. And imagine everybody is working on themselves and trying to eradicate all of these injustices happening in each home. What kind of a community, a strong community, is going to come out of this? this kind of community, which will, in turn will become communities, we will not then allow the biggest injustices that we are witnessing now. This is not going to happen. But obviously, if we have been allowing and enabling, like you said, because when you are silent in the face of the oppressors, it gives them the green light. Oh, okay, nobody reacted. Oh, that's fine. Then I will just go on and go on. And this is what we see at a larger scale now, at an international scale. But actually, it starts from the bottom at an individual level, and it's so important to say that and remind each and every one of us has a role to play. And each injustice that we let go is on the scale of things, it is major, because it's this one plus this one and this one who created what we have now, subhanallah. So may Allah, help you and grant you tawfiq and reward you immensely for what you're doing, because it is so, so important.
Ameen, Jazakallah khair.
What about, like, we are talking about ihsan on the podcast, about excellence. For you, Aisha, what does it mean to strive to become a woman of ihsan?
So for me, the way I understand ihsan and women of ihsan is to strive to become a woman of ihsan means pursuing excellence in my abilities and sincerity in my actions. So that is number one. Sincerity and authenticity in what I do. So excellence, ihsan, may mean differently to me from day-to-day basis. Even throughout the day, the excellence may change depending on my inner state, how I am physically, mentally, spiritually, how well connected I am to myself and to Allah. That changes. But excellence doesn't mean that every day I have to show up 100%. That one day it might be 30%, and that is my excellence, because that's all I could do. So for me, it obviously looking different every day, and it changes depending on circumstances, but I consistently strive to do my best and be as sincere and authentic as I can be, because the way I understand contentment is authenticity. And what I mean by that is you connected to yourself, you connected to Allah. And if you have some shortcomings within you, you accept that as your shortcomings, not just your strengths, because everyone is very good at playing their strengths and say, I'm very good at this, I'm very good at that, but we do not reflect enough on our shortcomings. So if I'm aware that these are my weaknesses and every day I try to do better and I try to work on them, I'm being authentic to myself. I recognize it and I do my best, sincerely do my best. And then I can leave the rest to Allah. Because I know, first of all, I know myself. I know what Allah expects of me. And then I work towards getting closer to Allah and improving myself. So this is the perfection. This is the excellence that every day I wake up to achieve. That's the intention I always have.
MashaAllah, it looks beautiful. And again, it gives us, it's empowering to me to hear that, first of all, within yourself, like the same person, it's not the same every day. Even within the day, like in the morning when you wake up, you might feel energized and you still have your battery is full and you can do a lot of things, and you should take advantage of that. And in the evening, you feel really tired, you can't do much. And everyone, you know yourself, and you should also be smart about it. Like when you know your energy levels are high, you take advantage of it to do what's most important to you. Like you need some things to get done. Then you do that when you feel good. And when you feel low, depleted, then you just rest. You just do activities that do not require so much energy or so much mental efforts, because even mental exercise, it is also, it requires a lot of energy. And sometimes we think, I've just been sitting at my desk and working, But I'm tired. I didn't do anything. I didn't go to the gym and so on. Well, sometimes just being here and working, like doing this intellectual work, it requires more energy than going to the gym. And sometimes you will feel much better after going for a walk or a jog and whatever physical activity that you're doing, than just staying home or at your desk in your office working. So I really love what you said, and inshallah, I hope it helps us be more realistic with our expectations. It's about doing the best we can with what we have at the present moment, and always having this intention. It is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and having this sense of accountability as much as possible, as often as possible. Because when you do that, automatically it means you remember Allah. And the more you remember Allah, the more He remembers you.
Yeah.
And it means you are on the right track. Inshallah.
Yes, it is very important. I'll just like to add, like, knowing Allah means also knowing what Allah expects of you. Sometimes we expect too much of ourselves. Allah doesn't expect us to go to the gym 5 times. Allah expects us to pray 5 times, but not to go to the gym 5 times a week. So sometimes we cannot do something we wanted to do because we're depleted in our physical, for example, energy, but we could use that to, other goods. It is okay. It is okay to allow yourself to do something else. It is not necessary that you have to give in to your feelings, because this is not what I do. I always set myself targets and I look at the greater picture and greater good. I do not allow myself to just, I'm not feeling like doing it. Like, I may not feel like praying, but that is not right. So I cannot allow my feelings to take over. I may not feel like doing this, but I know the reasons behind. So I will push myself to do that. And it's with everything else in life. So I think giving yourself that leeway sometimes when it's needed, that flexibility, that, okay, this is how I'm feeling today. This is my weaker point today, right? So I'll focus on my strengths without guilt or shame. Because if you start having guilt and shame, that usually comes from something that was projected on you in the past, maybe childhood, your parents or your spouse or your siblings, they maybe shamed you of being lazy or not doing something or not being good enough. That is not being authentically you. That is someone else's voice in your head.
Yes,
so again, going back to that contentment, the highest state as a Muslim as you can be, which is you connected physically, mentally, and you connected spiritually to yourself and Allah. So you get rid of all those noises, in your background, and you actually review, and renew your intention, and you think, okay, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I'm not, and this is me. This is what Allah expects me to do. This is what Allah doesn't expect me to do. And is this good or bad? So you assess all the time. And it seems like a huge process, but if you get used to doing that, sometimes even for some people, it's a good idea to write it down. And once you write it down, you don't need to do it all the time. It becomes just a new neural pathway that you have created and becomes your habit. So, or, your thought process. So whatever works for you, just be authentically you. Be sincere. And there's a lot of that on social media and in Western psychology. But I think understanding truly from Islamic perspective, this is what it is the intention and truly connection with yourself and Allah.
Yeah, definitely. It's, again, what you said earlier, putting Allah at the heart of everything that we do, and looking at everything through the lens of what is pleasing to Allah or not. And it requires to know, to be able to distinguish between the wrong and the right. And so this requires knowledge to know what is pleasing to Allah. And just getting into this habit of looking at, okay, like you said, these expectations, it is, where is it coming from? Is it because I learned it and I know this is pleasing to Allah? Or is it, like you said, this voice from the past?
Yeah. Usually it is.
Usually, indeed, because we have been conditioned from our childhood. And we're not even aware of that. SubhanAllah, we're not even aware of why we are behaving a certain way, it is because of what we have been experiencing, the good and the bad, and more often than not, the bad has been shaping us even more into what we are now. Well, I always say a lot, like all of us, we could use, if we haven't yet, some, therapy, like psychological therapies to uncover what happened in our childhood, but still has impact on our daily life now. What is this conditioning? Where is it coming from? Why am I so triggered by X, Y, or Z? It all comes from childhood. And why I think, and why I'm a great supporter of Muslim getting into the field of psychology, it is because it's the right way to go. As Muslims, if we go to non-Muslim, like you said, they have another worldview and paradigm. It's not going to match. We are going to feel like we're not going to feel aligned and authentic at some point. Some ideas are going to clash with our values. And that's why it's so important to have more and more people like you, Aisha, who take on this path of research, psychology, neuroscience from an Islamic perspective, inshallah. As we are coming to a close, it's such a fascinating topic. I think we could just do one session just about, and maybe a few actually, because the topic deserves a lot of time, because it is so central to why we do what we do, why we behave the way we behave, why people are suffering the way they are suffering, the injustices in the world, like, again, at an individual level and at a larger scale. It all boils down to this human nature.
Yeah, it does.
Subhanallah, and trespassing the boundaries that Allah set for us. Subhanallah, it is when we were not within the limits that our Creator set for us. When we go beyond that, it is when problem happens. And obviously, this is life. This is the dunya. Problem are going to happen. But understanding and trying to prevent major suffering should also be one of our goals, and not just be defeatist, pessimistic, and just think, oh yeah, people are going to suffer. This is what it is. No, we should strive to reduce the suffering, whatever it may be, reduce the injustice. This is the one of the reasons, the higher purpose for human beings on earth. It's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created humankind as a khilafah on earth to uphold justice and goodness. Not just, it's okay, people are starving, it is what it is. No, we should have, even if all odds, we are against all odds, and probability is in our lifetime we will never see the end of this conflict, of this war, of this having millions of people starving, but at least we are making the effort, we are striving, because the end is not in this world. The outcome is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but He will take us into account for our efforts here and our intentions, whether we get to this outcome or not, whether it happens in our lifetime or not, and we will see that on the Day of Judgment. So again, may Allah grant you tawfiq for all of this. And before we come to an end, I would also love to hear if you have a message or a piece of advice you feel really relevant for us, for the sisters from all age, the younger sisters, but also, maybe more mature women.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest message would be to look at the Islamic role models that we have. So my biggest inspiration is Khadija radiallahu anha. And I think aiming at the older generation, but also it could give heads up to the younger generation as well, to looking at Muslim women and the path that they may have to take, the path that Allah will destine for them, is looking at our First Lady, our mother of Islam, Khadija radiallahu anha, she had a very high status for a reason. She was a divorcee, a widow twice. She was a single mother. She was a woman of a high influence, very confident woman who married a man who was never married before and 15 years younger. If you look at this example in this day and time, when women of any age feel that they may never get married, that they're single mothers, that they have this baggage behind them, that they're not good enough, or they're broken because of the households they come from, or the childhood trauma they had, or wherever they come from. If you look at that example, that would just defeat everyone who thinks like that, because she has broken each and every stigma that people attach to themselves and others in this day and time. I came from a very deprived childhood, from very deprived, dysfunctional family. And alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah, with the belief of Allah, I have created the present and the future that I always could only dream of. That just shows everything is possible. I'm a woman who's also a single mother, a divorcee, who is an immigrant in this country, not stealing other jobs, but I work for them. I was brought up in a way, if I wanted to have something, I had to work for it, and I worked very hard for it. So that just shows that it's so much in our power and control that we usually give away to others. We give away to those who do not deserve it. So we need to gain our power back. We are not broken. We are not with baggage. The children we have as single mothers, they're the blessing from Allah. Everyone talks about the children in Gaza, that they are our children. What about the children of single mothers? They're also our children. They're the children of Ummah. Single mothers are those who have not left the children, who chose their children over anything else, who struggle for their children for the sake of Allah and responsibility Allah has given them. So never be scared, never fear or despair that you will be in a position that you will not be accepted in the society, because society needs to change if society doesn't accept it. And we change that from the core beliefs that we share, from the work that we do, from the work that you do, you know, in spreading awareness, the podcasts and social media. We use this as a powerful tool to spread this message that there is nothing wrong with us. Divorcees or being widows, any of that was present in the times of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our Prophet has sallallahu alaihi wasallam has chosen those women as his wives. So that just says it all. So never ever undervalue yourself. Never think you have to settle for less than what you deserve. Always have very high expectations of yourself and others in your life and the path you take. And this is, you know, striving to be a woman of Ihsan. This is the excellence. Never allow anyone to think or behave with you any differently. Inshallah.
MashaAllah, beautiful, beautiful, beautifully said, and so important again, so important. Alhamdulillah. I'm so happy that you were able to share all of this with us, Aisha. Jazakallah khairan. And I hope it can move just one person, or it can bring a smile, or it can bring hope, give hope and motivation, hope in the future. And really, Islam from day one, it came to give their rights back to women. Women are not less than men. They are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are worth as much as men. There's no difference. The only difference, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whatever your ethnicity, your background, it is the difference is in the taqwa, consciousness of Allah, and it is in the heart. This is what we were taught by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And who sees what's in my heart? It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once again, do not compare your situation with anybody else, which is one of the fitna of our time with social media. But again, it's just a tool. You are responsible for what you do with that. So you take the good and just leave the bad. And really, all of us, we need to be convinced we are here for a mission. We are here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He honored us. And He gave us the most beautiful gift, which is saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you have that, you have the key to paradise. But now you need to get there with your intentions, with your good deeds, and whatever challenge comes your way, it is Allah He has chosen this for you in specific because you can take on the challenge. He doesn't bear any soul with what they cannot carry, subhanallah. So be reassured that you are traveling on, like, it is the right path. And Islam is here to empower you. And the more you will connect with your faith and have good friends, to have the righteous suhbah, companionship, being in circles of remembrance, of knowledge, the more empowered you will feel. And maybe the challenges, the problems, they will still be there because life is a test. But how you will react to them, and you will get stronger, and you will feel more connected, and it will all make sense at the end of the day, inshallah, alhamdulillah. Aisha, last but not least, who would you like to see on the podcast as a guest, and what would you like to ask her?
I think I would love to see Samara Michael from Amazon FBA, quite famous one. She's also a convert to Islam. I met Samara personally, and I'm hugely inspired by the work that she does, her personal life experiences that she's now opening up about on her social media handles. And every time I connect or come across her posts, I just feel like this woman is definitely striving to be most powerful woman of Ihsan. Allahumma barik. I'm very honored to know her in person as well. I know how busy she is, and I think she has so much of value to share with everyone, whether it be single mothers, converts to Islam, Muslim women in general, and even just women in general, because she is a huge inspiration, a powerhouse woman, Allahumma barik. So what I would like her to share, or what I would ask her, would be how she maintains her spiritual resilience and avoids burnout while being so active in her work and community service. Because as we know, Samara, there's quite a lot of fundraising or sponsorship for organizations like New Beginnings, which is a huge commitment. But also, without spiritual resilience, I don't think she would be where she is now. So I would like to know more about all the tricks that she has.
Mashallah, it's amazing. I've also came across her profile and what she does. Amazing work. And I also listened to a live, I think it was on Instagram, and I also have her on my mind. And alhamdulillah that I have you now. And you know her personally, because now you're going to ask. I know she's going through quite a lot at the moment, but inshallah, I've had her in my mind for quite a long time now, and I would love to see her as well on the other side, and so she can get to share more of her story, inshallah. So yeah, we will keep Samra in mind, and if you can make the introduction, that would be great. Thank you so much, Aisha. Just to finish with, how can people find out more about your work, and how can they connect with you and follow you on social media?
So I'm on most of social media. So you will find me on TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram as Aisha Sukoon. Also, you can contact me by my email, which is info@aishasukoon.com. And I have a very basic website where you could book a call with me and read more about the work I do on aishasukoon.com.
Thank you so much. I will share the details in the description of the episode, wherever you are listening to this, watching on YouTube, either listening on YouTube. And inshallah, I hope that you found this episode beneficial, that you could take away some insights to your reflection, and again feel more empowered by this experience that was shared with us. And really, one of the things we keep repeating: you don't need to do everything on your own. You are not alone. And this is also one of the message of the podcast. We are here together. We want to support each other, and reach out to the people who are closer to you, like locally, geographically, but also now we have online. Again, we were talking about internet, how it has all the good that we know. So make use of it. Like, reach out to people. If you don't know people close to you in your community, then reach out to people online, and I'm sure, inshallah, Allah make it easy for you, so you can find relief and solution to your problems, inshallah. May Allah make it easy for all of us. I mean, thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you so much for everything, for being here, and what you shared. And again, I'm truly humbled and honored to have amazing guests like yourself sharing their beautiful work. And I pray that Allah rewards you immensely. Allahumma ameen. And see you soon for the next episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.